You know that feeling when something brand new starts? A new project, maybe a community group, even a whole organization.
Oh yeah, that initial buzz.
Exactly. There's this incredible energy, this passion. You feel like you can do anything.
hmm
But we both know that feeling.
Well, it can be a bit deceptive, can't it? Those beginnings are actually super fragile.
They really are. That make or break point, whether something flourishes or just fizzles out, it almost always comes back to a few key decisions made right at the start, in that really vulnerable phase.
That fragility, that's exactly what the source material we're diving into today tackles head on. It uses this great metaphor, the young plant analogy.
Right. It's not just about planting the seed, is it? It's about looking at the health, the structure, the sustainability of the whole thing by examining what happens when those first roots go down. It's like digging into the organizational DNA. So our mission today, it's pretty clear. We're trying to pull out a kind of blueprint. How do you get from just a fragile gathering, a bunch of interested people to something that actually lasts? A flourishing, reproducible community.
Yeah, something durable.
We're looking for those non-negotiables, the things that keep it going long after that initial excitement fades.
And what's really striking about the sources here is the range. It's this blend of, deep theological thinking, but also really practical boots on the ground strategies.
Tested in some tough places too, right?
Absolutely. Drawn from diverse contexts,
Yeah.
Asia, Latin America, Africa, often high-pressure situations. So we're not just getting theory. We're getting things like actual checklists, readiness guides. It's a real roadmap for building resilience.
Okay, let's jump straight into that foundation then. The sources really hammer this point. Long-term success isn't primarily about the obvious stuff, not the numbers, the budget, not even the building.
Right.
It's about this invisible stuff, the DNA that gets planted right at the beginning. Miss that, and well.
You're building on shaky ground. Absolutely. That DNA, it shapes the culture, it sets the expectations, and crucially, it defines the boundaries. Who are we? What are we committed to?
And if you don't define that early,
Well, the culture just sort of happens. It gets written by accident. And often, it just defaults to mimicking whatever's popular or maybe the lowest common denominator. It won't be intentional.
so the sources lay out some core principles for healthy DNA.
Yeah, 3 foundational ideas, really. Theses that need to be embedded from day one.
Okay, let's hear them. How do they stop that drift?
The first one sounds simple, but it gets violated all the time. Identity precedes method. Basically, getting crystal clear on who you are shapes everything you do.
Okay.
So in the context we're looking at, understanding yourselves as, say, a covenant people formed by a specific mission, that clarity dictates your choices. If that identity is fuzzy,
Then your methods get fuzzy too.
exactly, you end up just copying the latest popular program, whether or not it actually fits who you decided to be. You become derivative.
That makes sense. But, in the middle of launching something new, it's chaotic. How do you actually do that? How do you keep identity front and center? What's the practical step?
It takes real discipline, constant active work.
Hmm.
The sources call it core identity and boundary discipline,
Right.
practically. It means drafting a really short, memorable identity statement, like
Yeah.
3 lines max, and tying it to specific observable actions, and then you repeat it constantly, especially in those first critical 3 months. That repetition guards the original vision.
Okay, short, memorable, tied to action, repeat. Got it. What's the second thesis?
The second one is presence over program. The idea is that communities thrive through embodied discipleship people, actually living life together in relationship, not just by creating slicker events or programs designed to attract crowds.
That's a challenge.
It is, because if people mainly connect by just passively consuming something you offer, well, they're not putting down deep roots, are they?
No, definitely not. But that leads to another problem, doesn't it? If it's all about presence, how do you avoid the whole thing collapsing around 1 or 2 key people? The charismatic organizer, maybe? What's the third principle? Does it address that?
It does, directly. The third principle tackles that vulnerability. Release over retention. Think about Paul's model in the New Testament. He established, he equipped, and then crucially, he released leaders. He gave them real authority.
So not holding on too tight.
Exactly. Healthy organizations, healthy communities, they're designed from the start to replicate leadership, to push authority down and out. If you don't do that, you create dependency, and eventually it just collapses. You're not building your own little empire. You're building a resilient body.
Okay, so identity, presence, release. To make those stick, the sources talk a lot about covenantal membership. Why is making a formal covenant so important early on?
It's about shifting from casual interest to durable belonging. It creates mutual accountability. That's absolutely vital when things get tough, and they always do.
It's more than just rules then.
Oh, much more. A good covenant isn't just policy. It's the public statement of your shared identity. Who are we committing to be together? And the sources say keep it short. Focus on maybe 2 or 3 core commitments,
Like what?
like gathering weekly for worship and learning, or walking together intentionally in discipleship. These become the core identity-forming habits. When people sign on, they're signing up for that identity, not just showing up for activities.
Okay, that lays the groundwork. Let's pivot now. The sources are pretty blunt about why so many new initiatives fail, often really quickly, like within 3 years. What's the main diagnosis?
Yeah, they call it a missiological diagnosis.
Yeah.
And overwhelmingly, it boils down to 2 things: founder dependency and a failure to really localize.
Meaning?
Well, historically, you had thinkers like Roland Allen criticizing old missionary models, where the outsider, the planter, kept all the control. He stifled the local indigenous life.
That still happens today.
Absolutely, just in different forms. You get planter dependency, everything runs through one person, creating a bottleneck.
Yeah.
You get culture drift. What works somewhere else doesn't actually translate. And critically, there's this inability to raise up local leaders who can actually take the reins and guide the community through rough patches.
The sources illustrate this really well with 2 contrasting stories, don't they? 2 founders, 2 very different results.
They do. Let's look at Vignette A, called The Founder as Factory. This person is amazing, right? Charismatic, dynamic, gets things done
Draws a crowd quickly.
instantly. Because they are the engine. They preach the best sermons, organize the best events, they hold all the vision. But here's the catch. Because every decision funnels through them, because they don't really trust or release others fully.
They attract followers, not leaders.
Exactly. They build a crowd, but not reproducible leaders. So what happens? 18 months in, maybe 2 years, they burn out completely. And when they leave, the whole structure, which was built entirely on their personality and effort, it just collapses. Speed without intentional release creates fragility.
Wow. That's a stark warning about confusing size with actual health. So what's the alternative? What's Vignette B?
Vignette B is the rooted house. This leader starts deliberately small and slow. Their focus isn't maximizing attendance right away, it's raising up capacity in others.
How does that look practically?
Maybe their initial group, say 12 people, focuses intensely on leadership formation. Simple hospitality, prayer, maybe. But crucially, they immediately put, say, 3 potential leaders into really intentional small accountability groups. The sources call them triads.
Triads, like groups of 3.
Exactly. Small, intense groups for mutual discipleship, accountability, and learning together. It's deep work.
And the result of this slower, depper approach.
Well, by year 3, that original small group hasn't just grown a bit. It's actually reproduced.
Yeah.
Maybe it spun off 4 new house groups, all led by people trained up from within. It might look smaller than the factory initially, but it has genuine reproductive power. It's built to last.
So this really reframes the goal for a founder, doesn't it? The highest calling isn't building the biggest thing around yourself.
Not at all. The highest calling, the way the source material puts it, is actually to make the planter unnecessary.
Wow.
Yeah. The strategy from day 1 has to be about the handoff. It's that Timothy 2.2 idea. Entrust the core message, the DNA, to faithful people who will then be able to teach others too. It's about spotting and raising up shepherds in the making from inside the community itself. Their main job becomes caring for the flock and reproducing themselves.
And to make that handoff robust, to make it crisis-proof, there's this concept of redundancy design. Why is that so vital?
Redundancy is basically the antidote to having a single point of failure. It just recognizes reality. If only one person, even your most gifted person, can handle a critical function, finances, communication, leading worship, whatever.
Then you're vulnerable.
Totally.
Yeah.
The whole system is just one crisis, one person getting sick or moving away from grinding to a halt. Redundancy design means intentionally training at least 2 deputies for every single essential role.
Okay, but let's be real. When you're starting small, maybe you've only got 5 really dedicated volunteers, training 2 deputies for each role. That takes precious time, energy, resources that you could be using elsewhere, especially when the deputies might not be as good as the main person yet. How do you overcome that anxiety?
It's framed completely differently in the sources. It's not primarily about efficiency in the short term, it's an act of stewardship, of faith even. You're building capacity for the long haul. Think about it. If your finance person has a family emergency and the deputy needs to step in, yeah, maybe things slow down a little. But the system doesn't crash. Core functions continue. Redundancy builds resilience for when pressure inevitably hits. Or, just as importantly, when your best people need to be released for something else, like being sent out on mission.
Right. It enables that release over retention principle. Okay, so we've got the DNA, the covenant, we've got the architecture, reproduction, and redundancy. Now, the big question, how do we actually know if this young plant is healthy? This requires, as you said, a radical shift in how we measure success.
Absolutely. We have to stop just looking at the leaves, the visible stuff like attendance, and start measuring the roots.
Measuring the root depth, how?
Well, healthy plants, healthy communities, they measure depth and reproducibility. And to do that, you have to ditch the reliance on vanity metrics and really understand the difference between leading and lagging indicators.
Okay, break that down for us. Leading versus lagging.
Sure, lagging indicators, they tell you what already happened. They're like looking in the rearview mirror.
Examples.
Last Sunday's attendance numbers, last month's giving total, the number of names on your email list. They're useful for reporting, maybe to a board, but they're terrible guides for the future. They just show the result of past actions.
Okay, so they lag behind the reality. What are leading indicators then?
Leading indicators are different. They track the current habits, the activities, the systems that predict future health and formation. These are the dials you can actually turn today to influence where you'll be tomorrow.
So they lead you towards the future outcome.
Precisely. If your leading indicators look good, like you're seeing lots of active apprenticeships forming, you can be pretty confident about future health and reproduction, even if a lagging indicator like attendance is flat right now.
Okay, lagging is outcome. Leading is the process that creates the outcome. Give us some concrete examples. What leading indicators should we be tracking, maybe even weekly?
Okay, first one, the covenant adoption rate. Simple calculation. What percentage of your regular attenders have actually signed the covenant?
That measures depth of commitment, right?
Exactly. It tells you who's really bought into the shared identity. There's a case study mentioned where focusing on this intentionally pushed the rate from a really fragile 15% up to over 40% in just 9 months. That shift forces you to have those crucial conversations about what belonging actually means.
That's powerful. What about measuring the reproduction side?
For that, you track discipleship coverage. This looks at the average number of intentional discipling relationships per recognized leader.
So not just teaching, but actually mentoring.
Right. If a leader is just delivering content from the front, but not actively investing in discipling others, the core DNA isn't actually being passed on. It's not reproducing. The sources suggest aiming for a ratio of about 1:3. Every leader actively mentoring at least 3 other people.
Okay, 1 to 3. That's a clear target. What about money? Finances often feel like the ultimate lagging indicator, just reporting the past. But the sources seem to treat financial health differently.
And they do. They framed financial prudence and transparency as essential early season actions. They're leading indicators of integrity and stability.
How so?
Well, you need to track 2 key figures constantly. First, giving coverage. That's your recurring, predictable giving divided by your monthly operating budget. Tells you how sustainable your core operations are. Second, runway. That's your cash reserves divided by your monthly budget. How many months could you survive if income stopped?
Gotcha. And transparency.
Crucial. Publishing a simple 1-page budget showing where the money actually goes builds trust immediately. And those early financial decisions. They teach everyone what the community really values. Where the money flows reveals the true priorities.
Okay, that makes sense. Now for the last metric, and this one feels really counterintuitive, measuring departure as a sign of health.
Yeah, this is the pruning metric. And
Yeah.
it's kind of brilliant, actually. It's designed to stop the community from becoming totally inward-looking.
How does measuring people leaving help?
Well, think about it. A community that just tries to hold on to every single person might look big, but it risks getting stagnant, losing its outward focus. So, you track the annual sending rate.
Sending rate.
Yeah. The number of people you intentionally commission and send out, maybe to plant something new, go into missions, start a new service in the community divided by your total number of covenant members. It reframes loss as mission. It celebrates release. It's a powerful sign of maturity when you're actively sending your best people out. You have to build ways to publicly commission and celebrate them.
Wow. Measuring sending as fruit, that definitely changes the game. Okay, let's pull this all together. We started with this image of the fragile young plant. What's the takeaway?
It comes back to that fundamental choice, doesn't it? Is this new venture going to be like a delicate seedling that just withers under the first bit of pressure? Or is it going to become like a durable forest, something that lasts for generations?
And the difference lies in the leadership approach.
Exactly. The difference is choosing to be a gardener rather than a manufacturer. A gardener focuses on cultivating people, nurturing deep roots, building decentralized resilience.
Mm.
A manufacturer, they're focused on rapid production, centralized control, maximizing the crowd size right now. Very different paths.
The sources are really clear. Real vitality comes when you move beyond just being a place people visit, a gathering, to being a body people actually belong to, a true covenant community, defined by those shared commitments we talked about. That shifts everything from putting on a show to answering a call. So as we wrap up, there's this challenging thought in the material. If knowing something without doing it is basically self-deception, then here's a question for you listening right now. What's one concrete commitment you can make this week? Maybe around clarifying identity or starting intentional triads or even just tracking one new leading metric. What's one step you'll take to turn this knowledge into real, observable, reproducible practice in your own world?